Welcome to Conversations with Kay. I'm Kay Ryder. And every week I talk with Vermonters who are leaders in the fields of government, healthcare, education, the arts, and community life. My guest is Rob Meehan, who's the director of the Chittenden Emergency Food Shelf. And welcome to our listeners on station W 99.3 FM, WBTV LP. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you, Kay. It's so great to see you again.
Nice to see you again. I like your t-shirt.
Yes, this is about our UVM Campus Kitchens partnership that we have.
Teach, reach, feed, lead. Good words, all of them. Very good. Now, how long have you been the director of the Emergency Food Shelf?
It's been about 10 years, over 10 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, we've had a lot of changes in that time, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, where is the food shelf located? What are your hours?
So the food shelf is in Burlington, so we're in the Old North End. We're at 228 North Winooski Avenue, and we're open 6 days a week. Monday through Friday, we're open for groceries. That's usually about a 9 to 4 time. We have a soup kitchen that's open in the morning early at 6:30 a.m. And we have a food truck that's going out in the public on off, nights and other hours on the weekend events, and our homebound delivery program that's bringing food at odd hours too. So our hours are kind of all the time.
That sounds great. It's like the VNA, 365 days a year for them. So
yeah,
anyway,
they're so wonderful.
Yes, they are. I'm very biased. I worked there for 20 years, so I'm very, very biased. But I agree with you, and you do great work too. Let's talk about how many people are served approximately. Do you have any idea?
Well, we know through census and other statistical findings, there's over 20,000 people that are considered food insecure in Chittenden County. So our goal is to try to reduce that number. That's really what we're working at. But right now we know over 11,000 people come to that location to receive either groceries or meals. And we know we've reached about 3,000 more through our delivering food and otherwise. So we're anywhere between 14 and 15,000 people that we're actually trying or feeding now. But we want to make that 20,000 goal as soon as possible, while at the same time trying to work to make changes so that people aren't in that position they're in or without having enough food to put on the table.
Okay, now that's certainly a goal to keep in mind, that's for sure. So on the one hand, you're trying to reach as many as you can, and the other hand, you're trying to say, well, let's help them so they don't have to come here. And those are two great goals, absolutely. So let's talk about your programs. One of your prime goals is to provide good food for those who come to you. Now, how do you do this?
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, we're focused on health and wellness now. It's no longer just trying to gather the things that other folks don't want. I remember when I was a kid and someone would come to the door to try to collect food as a donation. As kids, we would just go to the back of the cupboard and try to find the thing that nobody wanted. So it's not really the goal at our Hunger Relief organization or at others throughout Vermont. I mean, really what we're trying to do is provide food that everyone would want and that also is sustaining and healthy, and a whole variety from locally sourced foods that are vegetables and even meats that are locally sourced. So we're really working hard to try to create a community that works together. Another goal that I should mention is we're trying to work with people that we're serving so that we engage with one another, so that this isn't I have and you don't have relationship, but rather how do we work collectively to make a change so that more people aren't in need.
Now, how do you deal with rescuing food, edible foods? Now that must be food, fruits and vegetables, things like that?
Sure. I mean, food rescue really talks about, gathering all types of food, whether that's, groceries from our partners at supermarkets, or whether that's farms where there are farmers that are gleaning produce from caterers, from restaurants. And we have an amazing relationship with the Vermont Food Bank, who throughout the entire state has by far the largest food rescue program you can think of. And so they help us rescuing food that would otherwise be wasted. And then we use that food in a variety of ways. So we'll work with people to actually make meals from rescued food. Some food that's rescued is just already prepared foods that we just redistribute to folks that are homeless or marginalized in other ways. So there is a network throughout the state that's pretty large, and that's using foods in a way of resourcing them. But there's a larger story here, and that's how do we change this paradigm so that there isn't such a need with people that are working and not able to pay for housing or to pay for heat in the winter or utilities. It's a very high standard of living, especially in Chittenden County. And yet sometimes those wages don't meet that demand. So basically what happens to folks is there's just, by the end of the month sometimes, there's not enough food to go on the table. And really the injustice of that is that it's just about money. And what we believe who are working in this field is that nobody should go hungry just because of money when we know there's enough food. So we'd like it, hunger relief to change from just gathering and sharing to actually trying to make more of an impact. And we believe it's going to be a collective that actually makes that change. So in other words, working with other nonprofits, working with municipalities, working with government, working with academia and others to really try to look at this as health and wellness. And the hospitals are getting involved now with hunger relief nationwide and even here in Vermont too. So this is a community issue that we're trying to engage more people about so that we're not just redistributing immediate need, but rather how do we look long term.
Right. And the long term is really so important. I want to go back to the food bank in Vermont. A lot of people, I think, don't understand what the Vermont Food Bank is about. I mean, they will get a letter to support the food bank, and then they say to themselves, well, now we have the Chittenden Emergency Food Shelf here, and we support them. Isn't that a double deal, or what do we do here,
Right, yeah, so we're just separate nonprofits. So we're a private charitable organization. We have a budget that we have to raise every year. We do that mostly by asking our neighbors for help. We don't receive federal dollars to do our work. We have really brilliant people on staff who write grants and receive monies from foundations. The food bank does the same work. They're trying to bring in groceries through relationships with the feds. So they receive commodities from USDA, and they try to distribute millions of pounds of food to agencies like ours. The difference really is that where we have that direct service with the people that we're trying to engage with on site, whereas the food bank's really got a relationship with food vendors nationally and the government as well. But it's an amazing partnership. We can't do it without each other. And we do more than just distribute food together. We have a program together called Community Kitchen Academy. And I approached the food bank maybe 8 or 9 years ago. I knew they had a program there that worked on job training. And it was something that I wanted to do because we turned the lights out in our cafeteria after our meal program. And I thought, we got to use that site. There's a great company in Vermont, American Flatbread Pizza, and in the Valley, they would make the pizzas during the week.
This is in Waitsfield, right?
Waitsfield, right?
Yeah.
And now it's spread,
yeah.
Right? But back in the day, they would use that restaurant as a production facility. And I thought we should do the same thing. We should work with people we're serving, make food together to distribute. And the food bank was already doing that. In Barrie, they had a community kitchen program, but they didn't have a lot of people coming there. Oh. So it was a great idea to kind of partner together since we have the people, and they had this great idea. It grew, so now it's an accredited program. So now it's called Community Kitchen Academy. So people can receive college credits. They receive all kinds of certifications, Serve Safe and bartender licenses and other things. It's a 12-week program. We have a chef instructor that we hire that goes through a pretty rigorous curriculum with folks. And we work with local companies, restaurants, and UVM and St. Mike's, Sodexo folks to try to help people get placed in jobs, which has been amazing and successful. We've had 23 sessions which is a lot.
Great, wonderful.
Yes, it's been really great, and it's been a way for us to engage with people rather than just say, here's the food, see you next time. We actually work together on, how do we use locally sourced food. And then the Good Food Truck came
but
next.
I want to talk a little bit more about the kitchen here. This takes you back to your original goal of not just giving people food and having them take it, but helping them achieve a bigger goal, and that is a job someplace. Learning how to prepare food. All this food is coming in, and learning how to prepare it and work with other people and distributing it, and that's marvelous.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working in this field since probably 92 or so, and just in that period of time, a lot of jobs have left, been outsourced. These are types of jobs that don't get outsourced, whether they're hospitality, working in a hotel in a variety of ways, or whether they're cooking, or whether they're managing a restaurant. These are jobs that stick around. Sometimes they're not the best paying jobs, and that's still a juggernaut. We're not sure how to overcome this. And again, wage is a big issue with areas of poverty. How do we make this math problem work? Especially when you have children and all the added responsibility and burden there, and never mind having fun, enjoying, because isn't that what we're supposed to be doing too? We forget that.
Yeah.
But we try to make some of our work fun as well, and Community Kitchen is a fun program. I mean, the students dress in tunics or fancy hats, and they make a lot of really great food together, and a lot of bantering and laughter, as well as strict,
Oh yeah, right. Well, now, you mentioned the Good Food Truck too. Now, I'd like to have you talk about that. And by the way, I am talking to Rob Meehan, who's the director of the Chittenden Emergency Food Shelf. Glad to have him back here again. Rob, you mentioned the Good Food Truck. I'd like to have you talk about that and tell our audience how that truck gets around.
Yeah, so we've had the truck now for a couple of years. We found a great guy named Emmett Mosley. He runs the Good Food Truck program, and he also has a worker with him named Ren Weiner, who is one of the cooks. So these two folks have this food truck, and they go out into neighborhoods and they feed people for free. They make eclectic street food that they sell at events, and then they give food away as well. So basically, we saw that there was this issue of food access with hunger relief. So here's an example. I met a Head Start mom, and she said, oh yeah, the food shop, that's great, good stuff, good work. I wouldn't come there. And I was like, oh, how come? Well, I don't want anybody to see me there. And so we said, okay. When we have staff meetings, everybody says, let's do it for the Head Start mom. How do we make sure we have a variety of food, that we can treat people with dignity, that we have a facility that's welcoming. But what if they don't come, right? We didn't think of that. So we had heard the statistics about access, but when you meet people, it changes your take on it. So we had this idea to try to go to people with food. And the food truck was happening in other places, and so we said, let's try that here. We got a grant from a place called Jane's Trust out of Boston to purchase a truck and outfit it. And we started going out into neighborhoods, and lo and behold, people came together. Communities started happening at these truck sites. We'll go to some low-income neighborhoods. We'll go to some real areas of deep poverty, places that are transitional housing sites throughout Chittenden County. And we make them regular times each week so that this is something people can rely on. And the events where we sell food are a way for us to pay for the program itself. So we try to pay for that through vending and through grant writing and through asking for donations. And one additional thing that just becomes a super bonus is we use the truck for job training, so that the folks who are participating in Community Kitchen Academy are on the truck, either at the events selling food or at the sites where we distribute food for free. So it's just this wonderful job training component.
We don't stop often to think about the fact that the pride that people have. Now, if somebody loses a job, which happens a lot. I mean, they're in this position which you talked about. Do I pay the rent? Do I buy food? What do I do?
Yeah.
Do I go to the dentist? Maybe, will I have heat in the winter? All these questions pop up, and there is the pride issue of not wanting, perhaps, to go to a food shelf if you maybe you have been someone who donated to it when you were working.
Absolutely, and I've met folks who've come to me privately to talk to me about how they were a donor, and now an illness or a loss of job or a different situation, divorce and other things, they find themselves crying and saying, I never thought I would need this help. And while that's great that we're there for people in that time of need, we still believe that we could change this paradigm so that this exists for everyone in a more inclusive way, rather than just when we're in an emergency situation. And I think food should be available to all.
Right. Oh, I do too. I think that food should be available to people. I've always thought that. I remember seeing photos during the Depression where they were throwing away food, and people needed it.
Yeah.
People were lining up for soup kitchens, and the farmers were throwing away food.
Yeah.
And this seemed, just stupid. Would be my word, but.
Well, I think part of our job now, is to get our voices to be a little bit louder about this topic that you and I are talking about now, because just in the time that I've been there, we've seen 10,000 more people in need in Chittenden County. What's next? We're going to get to 30,000, 40,000, 50. What's that look like? What does that neighborhood look like? What does our city look like? Right now, this is a pretty amazing place to live. You don't have bars on your windows, and you don't have a really high crime rate because people are so desperate. Could we be moving in that direction is a question that one would ask. And we don't need to. If we come together and look at ways that we can improve, hunger relief services and housing and other, obviously, related issues to poverty. But we really need to have that dialogue, honestly, because still there's this paradigm that we're going to put in a poor neighborhood this site that those people can go to. But what I'm arguing is it's us. It's not those people. It's anyone who goes through a divorce or an accident or an illness or a life-changing situation. So we got to band together a little bit more.
Well, the old saying, there but for the grace of God go I. You don't have to put God in there if you don't want to. But I mean, it is. It's true. I mean, a catastrophic illness can do a family in. No question.
Totally. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we're part of an umbrella that's CVOEO. So that's the Champlain Valley Office of Economic Opportunity. And CVOEO is just this amazing organization because it has all these different aspects to it, from weatherization, Head Start, housing, different types of housing programs, financial assistance programs, just from community action of all the amazing stuff that they do every day. So we're part of a team that's really looking at all the issues of poverty and trying to work collectively in our own little bubble. But what we see now is that we need that to expand to more.
Absolutely. And I'm talking with Rob Meehan, who's the executive director of the Chittenden Emergency Food Shelf. And he's been there for 10 years, over 10 years. Tell us a little bit about your delivery of food to the homebound.
Sure. Nase Salhi is the coordinator of the homebound program, and she brings food to about 140 people right now who, because of mobility impairments, cannot come to the food shelf or any charitable food assistance. So that's been a really beautiful program for the years that I've seen that in operation. We provide a visit. Someone usually sits and has tea or conversation and talk about other needs, health needs, or a lot of folks who are living by themselves sometimes don't get a lot of human contact. So this is one of the most important things that we do, frankly. And we see that, unfortunately, growing the need for this program. There's people on a waiting list, and we're trying to find more monies to expand that program.
Yeah. It's very important because some of the elderly particularly, when they can't get out because they're disabled in one way or another, arthritis from one thing or another, and they can't get out. And who they see during the day? Well, they may see a VNA nurse. They may see someone from Meals on Wheels, or someone from your program too, or the mailman. I mean,
Right.
you know, you have a limited life. Your sphere of life has really gone in. So you may be in your apartment lot. So it's the human contact is extremely important.
Oh, I totally agree. Even in our social service network, sometimes we become that circle of support for people who don't have family members here, and that's not easy for someone. So they're telling their most intimate details to a person who's working in a nonprofit, and because they don't have someone else to share with. And so there's luckily a lot of services available in our area that provide that. But again, what if we could switch that to a more inclusive environment?
Where would someone go to contact the Chittenden Emergency Food Shelf? I know you have a great website.
Yep, they can visit us at feedingchittenden.org or call us at 658-7939.
How many volunteers do you have for the food shelf? Do you know?
Sure, yeah. Volunteers are pretty amazing in the hunger world across America, but especially here in Burlington. So we know we use over 1,000 helpers in a year, and they really run our energy and our environment and help us keep the peace as well as move a lot of food. So yeah, volunteering is a great way to get involved and try to engage with some of these issues that we're talking about.
What do you mean by keep the peace?
Well, these are kind of tough times we're living in. For example, we've had some people who were concerned because they were new Americans. They were concerned about coming to our food pantry because we asked people for their personal information, and they didn't know whether we'd be giving that to somebody to have them taken away. Now these are hard times for the people that we're serving because their food stamps have been cut. They're facing a lot of hardships in other areas as well, and we're trying to remain this place of safety during a time that's not so safe.
Do you have translators working with you at all, Rob?
We do. We have a couple of people on staff that work as translators.
Great. They're very good. Very important. Very important. Talk about Dan Fortier just a little bit. He's a great volunteer.
Dan showed up. He was a guy who had just been walking his dog by our place and wanted to check it out more, and then has been with us for a really long time now, cooking in the morning for people. And it turns out he's this just amazing chef, just walked in off the street and started helping. We do have great culinarians on staff who Midhat Hadzi, who runs the soup kitchen, and Dan now have become the dynamic duo, cooking for homeless and people who are poor in our neighborhood, which is pretty amazing.
Well, that's marvelous.
He's a super guy, really.
Oh, well, you had an article on him in your last newsletter. He looks like a great guy.
Yeah, super.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People who like to cook, I think they like to smile too. I just kind of had that feeling.
I agree with you. Food is a way for us to come together. All the work that I've been doing with hunger relief is when you have food, it gets people talking, and that's a way for us to introduce other opportunities, or educational, or just sharing with one another how you might cook something versus it's just a great way to talk.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. I know when the VNA has had services for children that sometimes people, fathers even, from certain ethnic groups would come in and cook food and describe what it was and what was in there and why they liked it and everything like that. It's great stuff. Yeah. Think about your own life. What do you remember about grandparents and people like that, or uncles and aunts, or people in the neighborhood? You had a picnic. You all came together to eat hot dogs or whatever, but hot dogs aren't really good for you, but I still like them, so.
Who doesn't?
Right.
That's the thing about food too, is we sometimes, as a culture, will demonize people that are poor and think that, that they like that type of food, which I always find really funny. Every human likes the same kind of food. We all want really healthy food. We all want really unhealthy food. It depends on where we are, what the event is. For us, with our work, of course, we want to provide the most healthy opportunities for people. But say you're completely broke mom, single mom, and it's your child's birthday. Wouldn't it be great to have a birthday cake?
Oh.
So that's how we kind of look at that.
Yeah.
But we are we received a grant through the UVM Med Center to help with the Good Food Truck to go to places where seniors receive healthcare shares, and we're trying to demonstrate what that could taste like if you use some of the ingredients from that share. So it's all healthy, really great foods. Healthy food can taste really good.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's what we're trying
sure,
to talk
sure.
about as well.
Absolutely, and in poorer neighborhoods, they didn't have access to the big stores to go buy all this variety.
Absolutely.
And so it's getting better. I think. I think you're doing a great job. Now I believe, as I've said before, people should have food. They should have health care too, but we won't get into that great big bubble. You're working in an area of human services where there is a lot of uncertainty right now for one reason or another. Do you think there will be more and more people needing food assistance in the years ahead?
Well, yeah, absolutely. The trend that we've seen tells us that we are heading in that direction where there will be more people in need. What we have to do in our work is engage the community more so that we can work together to change how food is distributed. And I think that's our work right now. Sometimes it's hard for people to follow that logic because they think that we're a food pantry where we just get groceries and we just put them out and someone takes them. We're much more than a food pantry. In fact, we don't think that our name really describes what we do. Our job is to try to change this culture of food so that we're not all stuck in this track of fast food and unhealthy foods, and that we work together to create healthy, locally sourced food and not rely on these mega corporations for our sustenance. When we have learned, our doctor friends tell us that some of that can be really bad for your heart, can cause diabetes, can lead to problems. But for people that are poor, that's the vicious cycle. That's what's available to us if we're poor, is poor quality foods at mass quantities. So we get trapped into getting unhealthy foods, and we're working to change that.
Well, Rob, congratulations to you. Thank you. And to all your volunteers who help people in Chittenden County get good food. I know you're working with all the other nonprofit agencies. Hats off to all of you. Thanks for coming. I've been talking with Rob Meehan, the director of the Chittenden Emergency Food Shelf. And thank you for joining us on Conversations with Kay.